I remember the moment like it happened yesterday. Clara looked at me with those eyes I used to melt for, and she said, "Ethan. I need some space." Space? My voice cracked before I could stop it. What do you mean? Are you breaking up with me? No. She shook her head quickly, avoiding my gaze. Not like that. I need time. Time to think. Time to think. My chest tightened. Think about what? Us. Do I need to give you more room? You know I love you, she whispered. But I need space from everything. From us. I felt my stomach drop. 5 years. 5 years of birthdays, anniversaries, late-night talks, shared dreams, and now, this. Clara, tell me what I did wrong. Please. Did I? No. You didn't do anything wrong. She interrupted, stepping back as if my presence pushed her away. This isn't your fault. It's never my fault with you, is it? I muttered, more to myself than her. My hands curled into fists. I wanted to grab her, to shake her, to demand answers. But I didn't. I just stood there, paralyzed by disbelief. I can't do this right now. I need time to figure things out, she said softly, but firmly. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Time. How long? A week? A month? A year? Clara hesitated. Her silence was louder than words. Then she whispered, I don't know. The uncertainty stabbed me more than any accusation could. You don't know? I repeated. My voice was sharp now, but trembling. You've known me for 5 years, Clara. How can you not know? I can't explain it right now, she said. Tears glimmered in her eyes, but she didn't look at me. She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing in the apartment hallway like final judgments. I stood frozen, heart pounding, staring at the door she'd just passed through. My mind replayed everything, our laughter, our arguments, our dreams. Had I done something wrong? Was I not enough? The words, I need space, kept spinning in my head. I sank onto the couch, clutching the pillow. Space, I whispered to myself. Space from me. From us. From everything we built. I thought about the plans we made, the trips, the apartment, the careers. All of it felt like sand slipping through my fingers. The life I thought we had together now seemed like a fragile illusion. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to chase her and demand answers. But I didn't. I breathed instead. I thought about her happiness. About her freedom. About giving her the space she asked for. And then, slowly, a thought emerged, quiet, insistent. If she needed space, I would respect it. But I wouldn't let her absence destroy me. I would build a universe where I thrived. I would focus on myself, my dreams, my future. With or without her. I closed my eyes and pictured it, late nights learning new skills, mornings running until my legs burned, afternoons turning ideas into reality. A life of my own design. A life I controlled. Clara had asked for space, and I would give it to her. But in giving it, I gave myself something greater, the chance to rise, to change, to become untouchable by the very words that had broken me tonight. I sat there in silence for hours, listening to the faint hum of the city outside. The apartment felt emptier than ever, yet inside me, a quiet determination began to grow. If she needed space, I would respect it. But I would not stop living. I would not stop becoming. And one day, I would look back and see that her need for space gave me the greatest gift, myself. I wake up, and the apartment is quiet, too quiet. Clara's absence hangs in every corner. The bed feels empty, my clothes feel empty, even the coffee tastes empty. Ethan, you've barely touched your breakfast again, Jenna says as she drops a plate beside me. She sits across the table, arms crossed. You can't just starve yourself and expect this to fix itself. I'm fine, I mutter, poking at the toast. You're not, she says sharply. I see you every day. You've stopped laughing, stopped eating, stopped existing. I'm managing, I reply, though my voice wavers. Managing? She shakes her head. You call this managing? Your friends have stopped inviting you out. Work says you're distracted. Even Dad notices, and he's not the complaining type. I said I'm fine, I repeat, louder this time. She leans forward. Ethan, talk to me. What's going on in that head of yours? I don't know, I admit finally. I can't stop thinking about her. About what she said, what she did. Clara, Jenna whispers, more gentle now. I know this hurts. But hiding inside your head isn't going to make it better. I see her everywhere, I say, my throat tight. On social media, laughing with friends. Acting like nothing changed. And I can't stop feeling anger. Pain. Both at the same time. Pain is natural, she says softly. Anger too. But you can't let it eat you alive. I try, I say, my hands gripping the table. I really do. Later that night, Dad calls. Son, I know you're hurting, he says over the phone. But sometimes, what seems like a heartbreak is actually a blessing in disguise. Trust me, you'll see it one day. A blessing? I scoff quietly. This feels like losing everything. I know, he says. But you're stronger than you think. Pain doesn't last forever. I hang up, staring at the wall. Dad's words feel hollow tonight. I turn to my laptop and scroll through Clara's posts. There she is, smiling with her friends, her arm around someone new. It twists something inside me. Part of me wants to scream. Part of me wants to disappear. But beneath it all, a small spark ignites. I'll prove my worth, I whisper to myself. Not for her. Not for anyone else. For me. The next morning, I dig out my old journal. Its pages smell of ink and forgotten thoughts. I open it and begin to write, letting the grief pour out. I don't understand how someone I loved so deeply could pull away and leave me with nothing but silence. I feel hollow, empty, like I'm missing a part of myself. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't stop thinking. And yet, I need to survive this. I need to build myself from this emptiness, brick by brick. Even if she never comes back, I will rebuild. I will become someone she can't ignore, not for revenge, but for my own life. Jenna knocks lightly on my door. Dinner's ready, she says. I don't respond immediately. You're writing, she observes. That's good. At least you're not just sitting there, letting it destroy you. I'm trying, I say quietly. It's hard. Every memory, every word, it's all over me. You'll get through it, she says. One step at a time. Don't rush it, but don't hide from it either. I nod, feeling the tiniest flicker of determination. Alone with my thoughts, I realize the first step toward healing isn't pretending everything's fine. It's acknowledging the pain, feeling it, and choosing to grow despite it. I write late into the night, my pen scratching across the pages. My promises are silent but firm, I will rebuild myself entirely. I will not depend on her return, or anyone else's approval. I will create a life that belongs to me. For the first time in weeks, I feel a faint spark of control. The emptiness is still there, but now it's accompanied by resolve. Clara's absence hurts, yes. But my own presence, my own choices, are beginning to matter again. I close the journal, staring at the ceiling. The road ahead is long, painful, and uncertain. But I know this, I will survive. I will rebuild. And someday, I will emerge from this emptiness stronger than I ever imagined. I slump into my office chair, staring at the mountain of files on my desk. Everyone calls this project a lost cause, a dead weight, but something inside me refuses to accept that. "Alex," Sarah says softly, peeking around the corner. "You're still here." "It's late." "I've got a lot to do," I mutter, rubbing my eyes. "This project, it has to work." She steps inside, carrying a folder. "Mind if I help?" "Help?" I glance at her, surprised. "Why would you?" She shrugs, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Because someone needs to believe in it. And I think you do." I stare at her for a moment, then return to my spreadsheets. "All right, but don't ask about my life. I'm not in the mood to explain it right now." "Fair," she says, setting the folder down. "Let's just focus on the numbers." Hours pass. Cold coffee grows beside my keyboard. My brain buzzes with calculations, potential strategies, and worst-case scenarios. I make a mistake in the formulas and groan aloud. "You've got this," Sarah says calmly. "Everyone makes mistakes. You just correct it and move on." "I don't feel like I've got this," I admit, slumping in my chair. "I feel like I'm failing at everything." "Failing at what?" she asks, raising an eyebrow. "At life," I mutter. "At being enough. At everything." She sits across from me, her tone gentle but firm. "Alex, life doesn't measure your worth in wins or losses. It's about effort, persistence, and learning. You're doing all of that right now." Her words catch me off guard. No one's ever said anything like that to me, not since Clara walked away. I nod slowly, feeling some tension ease from my shoulders. By the next week, our routine settles. Sarah checks in with suggestions and silently corrects small errors before I notice. "I think if we adjust this ratio," she says one evening, pointing at a chart, "we'll optimize the projection by 15%. I blink, impressed. You really think so?" "Yes," she says simply. "Try it." I follow her advice. The numbers shift, and my heart lifts slightly. "It worked," I whisper. "It actually worked." Sarah smiles quietly. "See? You're capable." I laugh, a small sound I haven't heard in weeks. I almost forgot what that felt like. Later, as we compare schedules, she teases, "Don't get used to all this praise. I might start charging for consulting." "Charge me?" I mock offense, laughing more freely now. "You'd better accept cookies as payment." She grins, "Deal. But only if they're homemade." That evening, I sit at my desk, reflecting. For the first time since Clara left, I feel like progress is possible. Not just in this project, but in myself. The late nights, the cold coffee, the constant self-doubt, they're no longer crushing me. They're shaping me. The small victories pile up, a formula fixed, a presentation accepted, a client impressed. And throughout it all, Sarah is quietly there, not probing, not judging, just encouraging. Her presence becomes a lifeline. I didn't realize I could feel this, capable again, I tell her one evening, as we close the office. "You were always capable," she replies, shrugging. "You just needed to see it yourself." I nod, a faint smile creeping across my face. "Thanks for believing in me without needing to know why." "That's what teammates are for," she says lightly. And in that moment, I realize something important. Life moves forward, even when someone once laughed at your efforts or doubted you. The journey of rebuilding doesn't always require a grand gesture, sometimes it starts with quiet support, tiny victories, and the courage to keep showing up. I shut down my computer, feeling lighter. The office is empty except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of a city that keeps moving. And for the first time in a long time, I don't feel trapped in the shadow of Clara's words. I feel possible. Tomorrow, I'll keep working. I'll keep learning. And maybe, just maybe, I'll start believing in myself again. I stepped into the ballroom, the soft hum of conversation and clinking glasses filling the air. Networking galas were never my favorite, but I needed to see this project through. Alex. Over here, called Jenna, waving from across the room. I gave her a quick smile and made my way over. As I exchanged pleasantries with coworkers, a sudden movement caught my eye. Clara. She was laughing lightly, her hair catching the chandelier lights, radiating the confidence I once craved. But something in her eyes didn't match her smile, unease, a subtle uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Is she with someone? I murmured, noticing a man hovering near her. He barely glanced her way, busy checking his phone. Jenna leaned in, whispering, "That's her new boyfriend. I don't think he's very attentive." I nodded silently, feeling an unexpected sense of calm. I'd spent months steeling myself against memories of her, and now seeing her like this brought neither anger nor longing, only a quiet observation. Before I could decide whether to approach anyone else, Clara was walking toward me. She moved casually, as if the last several months had been irrelevant. "Alex," she said, forcing ease into her tone. "You look different." I allowed a small smile to form, steady and unshaken. "Better," I replied simply. Her lips tightened, and I caught a flicker of something like shock. Her eyes darted briefly toward her boyfriend, then back at me. "Better, huh?" "Yes," I said, meeting her gaze evenly. "I've been working on myself. Focusing on things that matter." She nodded, swallowing quickly, trying to maintain composure. I see that." I glanced at the surrounding crowd, noting her posture, slightly stiff, hands fidgeting with the strap of her clutch. Her boyfriend still hadn't looked up. She shifted her weight uneasily, attempting casual conversation. "Networking is fun," she said, trying for levity. "It is," I replied calmly. "Especially when you're present in the moment, not worrying about appearances." She frowned subtly, as if she understood the underlying meaning. I didn't elaborate, there was no need. As the night continued, I moved among colleagues, introducing myself and sharing ideas. Every now and then, I caught her eyes on me. She tried to be subtle, but her gaze lingered longer than necessary. She saw me laugh, saw me confident, and for the first time, I could sense her unease. "You're really different," she said quietly when I passed near her again. "Yes," I said with a nod. "Different from what you remember." She faltered, her smile slipping just for a fraction of a second. Her new boyfriend finally looked up, and she gave him a brief, distracted smile before returning her eyes to me. I felt a strange calm satisfaction, one that didn't come from pride or vengeance. It came from knowing I was no longer emotionally dependent on her approval. I could observe her without feeling the gnawing need to please her, without replaying old rejections in my mind. At one point, I overheard a coworker whispering about her. "She didn't belong in our circle," they said. I didn't correct them, didn't need to. Clara's presence here was transient, and I was fully aware of it. The night wound down. Guests drifted away, champagne glasses emptied, music softening. Clara's eyes met mine one last time before she turned toward the exit, her boyfriend trailing behind. I watched them go, feeling nothing but clarity. I breathed out slowly, realizing how far I had come. The voice that once controlled my emotions now barely registered. She had power in my past, but here, in the present, it belonged entirely to me. I tilted my head, a faint smile brushing my lips, and whispered to no one in particular, "Different, yes, better, certainly." And with that, I returned to my group, leaving the shadow of my past where it belonged, behind me. The office felt lighter than usual. My project, the one everyone had written off as impossible, was finally gaining traction. Reports of positive feedback and small accolades had started coming in, and I could feel the momentum shifting. "Alex, the clients loved your proposal," Sarah said, sliding a printed copy across my desk. "I knew all those late nights would pay off." I smiled, nodding. "Couldn't have done it without your help. Honestly, your input saved me from some disastrous ideas." She shrugged, her usual modesty in place. "We make a good team. That's all." I chuckled softly. "Yeah, a good team. Feels good to finally see things moving in the right direction." As we celebrated our small victories with coffee and quiet laughter, a notification popped up on my phone. The screen read, "Clara, can we talk?" My heart skipped, not with longing, not with panic, but with curiosity. I stared at the message for a moment, weighing whether to respond. After all, months had passed. She had left me space, and I had rebuilt myself without her. Yet, the instinct to see what she wanted was there. I typed back simply, "Where and when?" Her response was almost immediate, "Tonight, the park near your building. 8 p.m. The evening air was cool when I arrived. The park was quiet, a few distant laughter echoes from joggers and dog walkers. And there she was, Clara, standing under a street lamp, looking hesitant, almost fragile. "Alex," she said softly as I approached. "Clara," I replied evenly. "You wanted to talk." She swallowed, her eyes briefly darting away before meeting mine again. I miss you." I held her gaze calmly, letting the words settle between us. "No," I said, my voice steady. "You miss who I used to be." Her shoulders sagged slightly, as if the weight of that truth pressed down on her. I just thought maybe things could be different," she whispered. I shook my head. "They could have been. But that time has passed. I've been building a life without needing approval or validation from anyone who doubted me." She glanced down at her hands, fidgeting nervously. "I never realized how much you've changed." "I didn't need you to realize," I replied. "I needed to realize it myself. And I did." There was a long pause, filled only by the distant hum of the city beyond the park. Clara's lips trembled, her usual confidence gone. I made mistakes," she admitted quietly. "I shouldn't have walked away the way I did. Or ignored how hard you were working." I studied her, feeling neither triumph nor resentment. "That's in the past. And it's not my burden anymore. I've grown because of it, not despite it. My life moves forward, with or without anyone's approval." Her eyes softened, almost teary. I thought I had lost you for good." "You didn't lose me," I said calmly, a small smile brushing my lips. "I found myself." She swallowed again, nodding slowly. "And, it's like I can't touch that, can I?" "No," I admitted honestly. "Not anymore. You helped me realize what I needed to do, but you can't control the life I've chosen now." The clarity in that moment surprised even me. I felt a quiet satisfaction, the kind that comes from independence and growth, not revenge. She had her regrets, her doubts, but they were hers to carry. I carried only forward motion. Clara took a tentative step back. "I guess I'll leave you to your universe, then." I nodded, watching her silhouette merge with the shadows of the park. "Yes," I said softly. "And I'm building it just the way I want it." I turned away, my chest lighter than it had been in months. My work, my friends, my progress, they were mine. And for the first time, I realized that karma didn't need my hand, it moved naturally. Life had balanced itself, and I was finally free to thrive without interference. I walked home under the soft glow of the streetlights, feeling a calm satisfaction. The past had its place, but my future was untouchable. The morning started like any other, but the tension in the office was palpable. Whispers traveled faster than emails. I caught fragments: fraud, arrested, Clara's boyfriend. My chest tightened, not with satisfaction, but with a strange sense of inevitability. Sarah leaned over my desk, lowering her voice. "Ethan, it's true. He's been arrested. And people are starting to distance themselves from her." I nodded, keeping my tone calm. "I see." She frowned. "You don't feel anything?" I shook my head. "I feel clarity. Nothing else. Karma doesn't need me to act, it has its own rhythm." A few hours later, the office door opened slowly. She stepped in. Clara. Her usual confidence was gone. Her makeup smeared slightly, eyes red, hands trembling. My colleagues paused, watching silently as if expecting a scene. "Ethan," she began, voice shaky, almost a whisper. "Please. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have walked away, or doubted you like that." I gestured for her to sit, but she didn't. She hovered, clinging to the words as if they might anchor her. Please, just. I need you to know I regret everything." I stayed quiet for a moment, watching her struggle. "Clara," I said finally, soft but steady, "you said you needed space. And I respected that." Her lip trembled. I didn't think. I thought I could fix it, maybe, come back." I shook my head gently. "I didn't need you to fix anything. I used the space you asked for to build my universe. That space, it became mine to grow." Her eyes widened, a flash of understanding crossing her face. You actually." "Yes," I said simply. "I grew. I moved forward. And I moved well beyond needing your approval." A few office staff lingered near the doorway, murmuring quietly. I ignored them. Clara's shock, the realization forming in her eyes, that was enough. No anger, no harsh words, no dramatic confrontation. Just truth. She took a step back, voice barely audible. I never expected you'd be like this." "I had to," I admitted, my tone calm. "For myself. You gave me what I needed, even if you didn't know it. That space, it became my foundation." Tears welled in her eyes, but this time, they weren't for control or manipulation. They were for regret. I could see the truth of her emotions finally breaking through the pride and pretense. I ruined so much," she whispered. "Only if you let it ruin you," I replied. "Your mistakes are yours. My growth is mine. I chose not to let the past hold me hostage." She blinked, struggling for words, her shoulders shaking. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," I told her. "Actions speak louder than words. I've already taken mine. I used the chance you gave me, to live fully, without fear or dependence." Clara swallowed hard, looking at me with a mixture of awe and sorrow. You really are, free." I nodded, feeling a weight lift from my chest. "I am. And you'll see that your regrets don't control me. My peace isn't tied to anyone else's mistakes." A quiet silence settled, punctuated only by the distant hum of keyboards and faint chatter from coworkers. Clara lingered, as if searching for some residual connection, but I remained composed, a solid wall of calm. Finally, she turned toward the door, voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you, for letting me see what I lost." I watched her go, then exhaled slowly. The office returned to normal around me. People whispered, glanced, murmured, but I no longer noticed. My universe had grown beyond their eyes, beyond her words, beyond the old wounds. I understood at last. Closure doesn't come from revenge, from shouting, from making someone feel small. It comes from witnessing your own growth, from letting the past fade naturally, and standing untouched by it. I returned to my desk, calm and centered, feeling the quiet power of a life reclaimed. Peace, not vengeance, was the ultimate victory. The office felt lighter these days. Clara was gone from my life in every way that mattered, and the emptiness she left had transformed into space I could fill with purpose. I glanced at Sarah across the room, and she caught my eye with a small smile. "Morning, Ethan," she said, nudging my coffee cup toward me. "Morning," I replied, watching her settle into her chair. "You know, it's strange. I thought I'd feel hollow without her around. But I don't. I feel possible." She laughed softly, warm and easy. "Possible is good. Much better than haunted." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. "You've made that possible, more than you know. I was lost for a long time, Sarah. I didn't just lose her, I lost myself." Her expression softened. "Pain doesn't make you weak, Ethan. It makes you human. And humans, we adapt, we grow, we survive." I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words settle inside me. I think I finally understand that. The space she asked for. I used it to rebuild, to learn, to grow. A knock at the office door interrupted us. A young colleague peeked in, timid. "Ethan, could we talk?" "About coping with setbacks." I gestured him in. "Of course. Sit. Let's talk." He hesitated, then asked, "How do you keep moving when someone you trusted betrays you?" I studied him for a moment. "You don't ignore the pain. You acknowledge it. You feel it. And then you turn it into action. Learn, grow, build something that isn't dependent on anyone else's approval." He nodded slowly, scribbling notes. "But it hurts." "I know," I admitted. "It will. But pain is temporary if you use it wisely. The people who hurt you, they're just part of your story, not the ending." Sarah leaned closer, whispering, "You're becoming quite the mentor." I smiled. "Maybe. But it feels right. I can't change what happened, but I can help others navigate it better." The young colleague lingered a moment longer. "Thank you, Ethan. I think I understand now." Later that evening, Sarah and I walked outside to catch the sunset. The city was quiet, the air soft with the fading warmth. "You're different," she said after a while. "Calm, steady, like you finally found your rhythm." "I think I have," I replied, watching the horizon. For a long time, I chased approval, or fear of losing it. Now, I focus on growth, on purpose. Not on anyone else. She smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And it suits you. It's freeing." I glanced at her, feeling a sense of gratitude I hadn't expressed yet. "You've helped me more than you know. Not by fixing me, but by showing me it's okay to be human, to feel, to build without fear." Her eyes softened. "That's what friends are for, Ethan. And maybe, more than friends, sometimes." I chuckled softly, the sound light, without awkwardness or expectation. "Let's focus on growth first. Everything else can follow naturally." Back in the office, I found myself sharing strategies, listening to frustrations, celebrating small victories. Each interaction reminded me that life could be steady, productive, meaningful, even after betrayal. The day ended with me at my desk, reviewing a project plan, but I wasn't restless or distracted. I felt grounded, connected, aware of how far I'd come. The empty spaces in my life were no longer voids, they were canvases for choice, action, and joy. I thought briefly of Clara, realizing that she no longer held power over me. Not a shred. And that was the quiet victory, the kind no one else might notice, but one I felt deep in my chest. I had survived, grown, and was now untouchable by the past, free to thrive on my own terms. As I shut my laptop, Sarah waved from across the room. I waved back, smiling. There was no tension, no shadow of former heartbreak. Only growth, healing, and a life being built deliberately, piece by piece. Peace, I realized, was the ultimate revenge. My phone buzzed just as I was leaving the office. A message from Clara. I stared at it, reluctant, my thumb hovering over the screen. Ethan. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Can we talk? I didn't reply. I read it once, then again. My chest didn't tighten. My stomach didn't churn. For the first time, I felt nothing but calm. Do you want to delete it? Sarah asked from the passenger seat as I drove home. I think so, I said slowly. It's not anger. It's not sadness. I just don't need it. She nodded, her hand brushing mine lightly. That's healthy. You're letting go, not holding on to the past. I hit delete. Exactly. This chapter is closed. Permanently. At home, I sank into the couch, a sense of clarity settling in. Work had been fulfilling, but this piece, was something I hadn't expected. Sarah called that evening. Dinner? She asked. I smiled. Yeah. Let's do that. Over plates of food, we talked about everything and nothing. I've noticed how different you are now, she said. Focused, calm, unstoppable, almost. I laughed. Unstoppable? Maybe. Or maybe I finally stopped letting certain people control my emotions. She raised an eyebrow. And that feels good. Better than I imagined, I admitted. I thought losing Clara would leave a void. Instead, it opened space. Space to think, grow, and live on my terms. She smiled softly. I'm glad you're here now, not trapped in what was. You deserve this, Ethan. Her words sank in. I realized I had spent so long chasing approval, chasing love that came with conditions, that I had forgotten how to value myself. Now, I was rebuilding that sense of self. Weeks passed, each day marked by small victories. Projects succeeded. Recognition came without effort or expectation. I mentored younger colleagues, guiding them through challenges, celebrating their growth as if it were my own. One afternoon, Sarah stopped by my office, holding 2 coffees. Thought you could use a break, she said, handing me one. I took it gratefully. You always know when to show up. She laughed. Maybe I just know you better than you think. Or maybe, you're easier to read than you give yourself credit for. Maybe, I said, smiling. But I like that. Life feels simpler now. Less heavy. We sat together quietly for a while, sipping our coffee, enjoying the rare comfort of presence without pressure. I realized that trust was being rebuilt, slowly, carefully, without rushing. You ever think about her? Sarah asked finally, nodding toward the window where the sunset painted the sky. I shook my head. No. Not in the way I used to. I think about what I've gained from the experience. Not about what I lost. That's impressive, she said softly. Most people get stuck, Ethan. I'm not most people, I said, though not with pride. Simply with certainty. I had learned to see pain as a teacher, betrayal as a signal to redirect my energy, and love as a gift that begins with self-worth. That night, I walked home alone, breathing in the cool air. Clara's name didn't echo in my mind. There was no ache, no longing, no regret. Only awareness that life was vast, full of possibilities, and finally mine to shape. I thought about all the moments that had hurt me, the nights I'd cried, the days I'd felt hollow. And I understood, losing Clara had been a blessing in disguise. I didn't need her apology to validate that. Arriving home, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. Calm eyes. A steady posture. A quiet confidence that didn't demand recognition but radiated naturally. I had transformed, not through anger, not through revenge, but through deliberate living. Later, Sarah sent a message, "Proud of you. Proud we're building this together." I smiled, replying simply, "Me too." And in that moment, I realized something profound. Love isn't promises, isn't possession. Love is peace, respect, and self-worth. I had found it within myself, and that was more than enough. Clara was finally a memory, and I was finally free. The ballroom shimmered with soft gold light, laughter floating through the air. I hadn't planned to attend, but Sarah insisted. "It's been a year," she said, adjusting my tie before we left. "You should see how far you've come." "I don't need proof," I said lightly. "But fine. 1 hour." Now, standing among the crowd at the charity event, I realized how different everything felt. Conversations buzzed around me, champagne glasses clinked, and music drifted gently. None of it stirred the old ache. "Ethan. You made it," a colleague called out. "Yeah," I replied, smiling. "Wouldn't miss it. Good cause, right?" We talked about work for a while, then my eyes caught something, or someone, across the room. Clara. She stood near the refreshment table, dressed simply. No glitter, no crowd of admirers. Her posture was quieter now. Our eyes met for a brief second. Her smile flickered, hesitant, uncertain. Sarah noticed. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I said. And I meant it. "That's just, someone from my past." "You want to leave?" I shook my head. "No. I want to stay." A few minutes later, as Sarah went to greet a client, I wandered toward the art display. The air hummed with polite chatter until I heard a soft voice behind me. "Ethan." I turned. Clara stood there, holding her clutch tightly. "I didn't expect to see you here." I smiled. "Life's full of surprises." She glanced down, nervous. "You look different." "I feel different," I said. "It's been a long year." She exhaled. "You really did change." Her tone wasn't jealous or bitter, just honest. I could hear the exhaustion beneath it, the quiet acceptance of her own downfall. "I had to," I replied. "You told me you needed space." I took that seriously. Clara's lips trembled into a small, sad smile. "I thought space would help me figure things out. Instead, it just made me realize what I lost." I nodded, calm. "Sometimes losing is how we learn." Her eyes softened. "You're not angry?" "No," I said quietly. "I was, once. But anger fades when you outgrow it." She hesitated. "I saw your project got international recognition. Sarah mentioned it online. You must be proud." "I am," I admitted. "But it's not just about work. It's about peace." Clara looked away, her gaze distant. "I'm working here now. Not as a manager. Just, staff." Funny how life turns. "Life has a sense of humor," I said. "It humbles all of us." She nodded slowly, then met my eyes again. "Ethan, I'm glad you're doing well." "Truly." "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I hope you're doing okay too." "I'm trying," she said softly. "It's different, but maybe that's what I needed." For a moment, silence stretched between us, not tense, not bitter. Just silence full of closure. I smiled faintly. "You helped me, you know." Her brows furrowed. "Helped you?" "By breaking me," I said simply. "You forced me to rebuild. I wouldn't be who I am without that." Clara's eyes glistened. "I didn't mean to hurt you that way." "I know," I said gently. "But we both had to learn something. I learned to live without needing someone to complete me." She took a deep breath. And what did I teach you about love? That it starts with self-worth, I replied. She smiled, faint and genuine. You sound like someone who finally found peace. I did, I said, glancing around the room. Peace, purpose, and people who see me for who I am, not who they want me to be. Sarah appeared then, waving from across the room. Ethan, come here. They're announcing the next fundraiser partners. I turned back to Clara. I should go. She nodded, voice trembling slightly. Ethan, thank you. For not hating me. I smiled. You helped me do this, I said softly. She looked at me one last time, eyes filled not with regret, but quiet understanding. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Clara. I walked toward Sarah as the crowd applauded the new project announcement. The lights shimmered again, reflecting off the glasses and laughter. For the first time in years, I felt entirely weightless. Sarah whispered, You seem lighter. I am, I said. Completely. I glanced once more across the room, but Clara was already gone. It didn't matter. The past had finally released me. I had come full circle, back to myself. The rooftop was quiet, painted in gold and orange. The city below hummed faintly, the kind of distant noise that makes silence feel deeper. Sarah sat beside me, her hair catching the light breeze. She smiled faintly. You always come up here when something's on your mind. I leaned back, hands behind my head. It's peaceful. No noise, no pretending. She chuckled softly. You've changed a lot since the night we met. Back then, you couldn't sit still for 5 minutes without checking your phone. I was waiting for messages that never came, I admitted. Now, I barely touch it. Sarah turned toward me. Do you ever think about her? I looked at the fading sun. Only to thank her. Her brow lifted slightly. Thank her? Yeah, I said quietly. She broke something in me that needed to break. Without that, I'd still be chasing validation, mistaking love for survival. Sarah didn't speak for a while. The wind carried the faint sounds of traffic and laughter from below. She said she needed space, I murmured. And I gave her the whole universe. Sarah smiled gently. And somewhere in that universe, you found yourself. I nodded. Exactly. For a moment, neither of us said anything. I watched the skyline, the colors melting into twilight. You know, for the longest time, I thought freedom was about walking away. Now I know it's about not needing to. Sarah rested her chin on her knees. That's poetic. Maybe, I said. But it's true. I spent so long trying to prove my worth. I thought success would silence the pain, but it didn't. What healed me was peace, quiet, ordinary peace. She tilted her head. So, no regrets. I smiled faintly. Regrets, yes. But no resentment. There's a difference. Regret fades, resentment rots. I chose to let it go. She leaned closer, her voice soft. You make it sound easy. It wasn't, I said. There were nights I hated her, hated myself, hated the silence. But each time I broke down, I rebuilt a little stronger. Until one day, the anger didn't fit anymore. Sarah laughed quietly. You talk like someone who's been through a war. I have, I said with a small grin. An invisible one. The kind fought inside your own head. She smiled, eyes warm. You won. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just stopped fighting. She looked at me for a long moment. You really are free now, aren't you? I exhaled slowly. Yeah. For the first time, I'm not living for someone's approval. I'm just, living. Sarah reached over, brushing her fingers against mine. And what does freedom feel like? Like this, I said. Like a sunset that doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. She smiled. You sound like a writer tonight. Maybe I'm just grateful, I replied. Grateful for the pain that pushed me to grow. For the people who stayed. For the chance to start over. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. And for me? I looked at her, the reflection of the sunset in her eyes. Especially for you. She blushed faintly. You're dangerous with words. I laughed softly. No, just honest. The city lights flickered on one by one, the skyline glowing like scattered stars. Ethan, she said after a while, do you ever think about what you'd say to her if she came back now? I smiled. Nothing. Because there's nothing left to say. The version of me she knew doesn't exist anymore. Sarah nodded slowly. And the version sitting next to me? He's still learning, I said. Still healing. But he's at peace with the past. She leaned her head against my shoulder. That's all anyone can hope for. Yeah, I murmured. That's all. The wind brushed past us again, carrying the scent of rain and concrete. The world felt wide, endless, mine. I glanced up at the sky, stars beginning to pierce the dusk. Funny, I said. She wanted space, and I gave her more than that. I gave her the whole universe. Sarah looked up too. And in the process? I created my own, I whispered. She smiled, closing her eyes. Then maybe that's what freedom really is. Maybe it is, I said, my voice low, steady. The night settled around us, soft, weightless, free.